Hello everyone, my name is Linda Morin. I am a cancer survivor. I came here in 2007. I had breast cancer. Since the age of 30 years old, I've been going for mammograms. My grandmother, my great aunt, and my aunt all died of breast cancer at a very early age, so the doctor suggested that I go for mammograms every single year, so which I did. Every year they've always said to me, you've got a lot of cysts in both breasts, but don't worry about it, come back next year. In February of 2007, I did just that. I went to have a mammogram down, and again they had told me, lots of cysts, don't worry about it. But I was saying, you know, my breasts are extremely, extremely sore. They've been sore for almost 6 months now. What's the purpose? And they says, well, you know, you're 45 years old, you're probably going through premenopausal, don't worry about it. Fine, got my results. Again, you've got cysts. I let it go. About 5 months later, I had a little itch, and I lift my arm, and what do you know, I found a lump which was the size of a prune. So immediately, I called my doctor. He saw me 2 days later. 3 days later, I had a lumpectomy. Again, he says, you know what, I'm sure it's not cancer, it's just a cyst that got bigger. We let it go. He says, I want you to come back in 2 weeks to remove the stitches. We'll have your results. I went back 2 weeks later, and the moment the doctor saw me, he says, I am so, so sorry, Miss Morin, but you've got breast cancer. The moment you hear you have breast cancer, obviously you think I'm going to die. Here I am going through a divorce. I have 2 little boys back then, 9 and 16 years old. I'm saying, what am I going to do? Who's going to take care of my kids? How is my mother going to handle this? So I sat down, and I went home, and I sat down with my mother and my children and told them that I had breast cancer. How does a parent do this? It's the worst nightmare that we could ever go through, and telling my family was the hardest thing I could have ever done. And my mother's reaction was more than I could handle, and I said to myself, I'm going to do everything in my power to fight this disease, because this disease is not going to get me. So I did my research, went on the internet, looked at all my options, and it wasn't good. I went to see 3 surgeons. They all told me that I had to have a mastectomy. My sister has a girlfriend in Los Angeles, which is an oncologist, and I spoke with her, and I said, don't talk to me as a physician, talk to me as a patient. She says, Linda, with your family history, I would remove both breasts. The reason why is there's a 20 to 30% chance that the cancer will spread in the next breast. Now, this is something that doctors forget to mention. So I called my doctor, and I says, I will have a double mastectomy. 10 days later, I had the double mastectomy. And the first time when they removed my drainage and my bandages, I knew that I was going to be different. I was never going to be the same woman again. The first time when she removed it and she had left, about 15 minutes later, I got up and I looked at myself in the mirror. And I said, who is this woman? I don't know this woman. She does not have breasts anymore. And I'm French and Italian. I had large breasts, and that is part of our womanhood. And that was now gone away. And here I was with a long scar from one armpit to the other, 3 holes from the drainage tubes, and I had promised myself that I was never going to look at myself again, because this woman is disgusting. Who is going to want me? Here I am single. No man is ever going to want me, and I don't even want myself. For 2 years, I've never once looked at myself without clothes. When I would be in the shower, I wouldn't even wash my chest. And I was the most angriest woman you could ever meet. I never smiled. I always yelled at the kids. I couldn't go on with my life. And somebody had told me about Hippocrates, and that to go there, and that it would change me. So I decided that I was. 2 days before I was coming here, I was lying in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I was praying. I was saying, God, why am I going? It's not going to change the fact that I had breast cancer. It's not going to change the fact that I no longer have breasts. It doesn't change the fact that I'm no longer a woman. It's all taken away from me. And then all at once I started having tears. But I wasn't crying out of sadness. I was crying of joy. And I couldn't understand why now I had this big smile and I'm crying. But this little voice kept on telling me, you're going to help millions of women. I'm saying, how can I help all these women when I can't even help myself? I fell asleep, came here, and This place changed my whole life. There was a guest speaker that evening, and he was a doctor for lymphatic. And he teaches everybody in the world and doctors about lymphatic nodes and massages. And I'd raised my hand very shyly and said, I had a double mastectomy and I'm a little swollen. What can I do? He says, well, come down here and I'll examine you. So I went down and he asked me to remove my top. And I said, excuse me, there's 75 people in this room. I can't remove my top. And he says, well, if you want me to examine you, this is your chance. And like I said, I've never looked at myself for 2 years and never allowed anyone to go near me. I removed my top. I just looked at everybody and I said, is everybody ready? And I did it. And the moment I did it, the room felt silent. You could hear a pin drop. And now he's massaging me, he's moving the lymph nodes, he's massaging my liver and my back, and the swelling did go away. Once everything was over, I put my shirt back on, and now people were approaching me and telling me how courageous I was, and that I was their inspiration, and I was beautiful, and I never saw myself that way because I always thought I was the most disgusting thing you could ever look at. I have no breasts. And then I said, I have to go and meditate. So I did. I went and meditated. And again, this little voice, and I said, I'm going to go talk to Brian and Anna Maria. I said to them, I said, I would like to write an article about the experience that I had. But I said, the other thing that I would like to do, I would like to expose myself to the world and show people how we look after a double mastectomy, because there's no reason to be ashamed. We should be proud that we are survivors, and that just because we don't have breasts doesn't mean that we're any less of a woman. He says, then let's do it. We did. I wrote a long article, and I didn't know that the picture was going to be a full page of me topless, and it was, and boy, that was hard to see, because like I said, I've never looked at myself. And I had emails and text messages from people all over the world telling me how they felt about the photo, and men calling me and texting me and emailing me so I could help them with their spouse, because they were hiding just like me, hiding in the closet, wouldn't show themselves because they were ashamed. Then I decided, you know what, with this, I will write a book about my journey. And my book is not just about breast cancer, it's about feeling good about yourself, it's about any kind of disability. When I was diagnosed, the day that I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a big flood. That flood, I called the health department 2 days later. I had to vacate my premises because there was mold in the basement, and I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. So now I had 2 kids, I had to vacate, I was now homeless, going through a divorce. Who's going to take care of my children? So, and then I had my ex-husband fighting for full custody, saying that since I had cancer, that I was a non-fit mother. So I was trying to deal with all of this, and the whole point of the book is, you know what, no matter how dark it gets, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. With Hippocrates, it changed my whole life. I never thought that I would have written a book. I never thought that I would accept myself again as a woman, that I would travel the world and tell my story and be a counselor and go out there and try and make everybody feel better. So this is the front cover of the book. Very hard, but you know what? I've accepted. Before, I couldn't accept that I had breast cancer. I was so angry. I couldn't accept that I didn't have breasts. But now I'm doing this because I want other women just like me to come to terms with their body. And I want women to know. Thank you. And we have to know that being a woman is not about having breasts. It's about overcoming adversity and feeling stronger for it, no matter how difficult it could be at times, but it's to feel good about who you are. And I know in society we are told that we have to look a certain way. We have to be thin, we have to have large breasts. You know what? You could be beautiful, but it's not what's out here. It's what's in here that really matters. And that's what my whole story is believe in yourself. And love the person that you are. Forget about the person that is next to you. And if somebody looks at you differently, it doesn't matter. If you'd like to purchase my book, it is at the Hippocrates store. It's also on Amazon and also on my website, thecouragetolookbeyond.ca. Thank you.